So in today's lecture, we'll talk about pros and cons of trade deficits and trade surpluses. This is a very apt topic in the broader discussion that's going on in popular media, whether we should be running more trade deficits or we should be running more trade surpluses. Now, most important thing is this. For countries, there is no economic merit in a policy of abstaining from participation in financial capital markets. Why is this so? It can make sense for a national economy to borrow from abroad as long as it wisely invests the money in ways that will tend to raise the nation's economic growth over time. Now, if you are running a trade deficit, according to the balance of payments account, we need to borrow money to pay for it. Now, the question is this: what we do with this borrowed money? Are we borrowing money to invest in new factories? Are we borrowing money to create new jobs? Then perhaps it's good, and that's what history shows. For example, US in the mid 1800s and South Korea in the 1970s borrowed heavily to pay for investments. On the other hand, a borrower nation can find itself in trouble if it does not invest the incoming funds from abroad in a way that leads to increased productivity. And great examples are recent experience of countries like Mexico, Brazil, and some African nations in the 1970s and 1980s. So question always boils down to what you do with your money. If we borrow money so that we can invest in more productive activities, that's helpful. On the other hand, if you want to borrow money so that you can gamble in Las Vegas, that's a problem. So borrowing itself is not a bad thing till it is productive, because productive borrowing is going to generate more income. Same in our day-to-day life, right? When we borrow money to buy a new home which we maintain and increases in value and we can sell it in future, that becomes an asset. On the other hand, if you borrow money so that you can go and have a vacation somewhere, that's not productive because that's consumption. You are not investing this money. The vacation does not give you additional income. So here's some final thoughts about trade balances. So trade deficits can be good or bad sign for an economy, and trade surpluses can be good or bad sign also. So we really can't say trade deficits are bad or trade surpluses are good. Even a trade balance of zero, which just means that a nation is neither a net borrower nor lender in the international economy, can be either a good sign or a bad sign. Think about North Korea, which barely trades with anybody in this world. They have a trade balance of zero or close to zero. Are they doing good? No. On the other hand, United States, we run huge trade deficits. We borrow a lot of money. And I think we are doing pretty good, isn't it? The question is this: what we do with our money? So fundamental economic question is not whether a nation's economy is borrowing or lending at all, but whether the particular borrowing or lending in the particular economic conditions of that country makes sense. So it's a context specific. If you look at the United States in the early 1800s or even throughout the 1980s and 90s, we borrowed a lot of money we wanted to invest. However, all the recent borrowings that's happening is going into consumption. It's not going into investment purposes. So it's a context specific issue. There's no definite answer whether trade deficit is good, trade surplus is good, or borrowing good or not borrowing is good. It all depends on what we are doing with our money.